A search and rescue operation is underway after a US aircraft carrying 11 crew and passengers crashed into the Pacific Ocean. The propeller-powered transport plane was travelling to the aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan operating in the Philippine Sea. The crash took place at about 2:45 p.m. local time, and the names of those aboard are being withheld until next of kin have been notified. How the crash happened is not yet clear, but it's thought to have been the result of engine trouble. The aircraft had been in operation for more than 5 decades and was due to be replaced.
President Assad of Syria on a visit to Russia has been told by President Vladimir Putin that it's time to pivot from a focus on military operations in Syria to a search for a peaceful solution. Putin said he would follow up his meeting with Assad by talking in the next 48 hours to international leaders with influence over the conflict, among them US President Donald Trump, the Saudi king, and the leaders of Iran and Turkey. This was Assad's first official foreign trip in over 2 years. You mentioned the Astana process, which I too value greatly. Thanks to the Astana process, we've been able to create de-escalation zones, and that in turn allowed us to start the first real thorough dialogue with the opposition. In all, the visit to Sochi lasted 4 hours and was a closely guarded secret until Assad's return. We are ready to talk with every country that's ready to stop bloodshed in Syria and that is ready to continue a political process as long as they respect Syria's sovereignty and decisions made by the people of Syria. During his visit, President Bashar al-Assad gifted a painting to Putin, which he said was the work of the Syrian artist, who had previously fled to France but recently returned to Syria.
Major cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and Ethereum, are falling against the dollar on Tuesday morning after a $31 million heist elsewhere in the digital currency world. Tether, which created a cryptocurrency called USDT that is pegged to the dollar, said in a blog post on Tuesday that funds were improperly removed from the Tether Treasury wallet through malicious action by an external hacker. The company said that $30,950,010 was taken in total.
Iranian President Hassan Rouhani declared the end of Islamic State on Tuesday, while a senior military commander thanked the thousands of martyrs killed in operations organized by Iran to defeat the militant group in Syria and Iraq. Rouhani said in an address broadcast live on state TV, "Today, with God's guidance and the resistance of people in the region, we can say that this evil has either been lifted from the head of the people or has been reduced. Of course, the remnants will continue, but the foundation and roots have been destroyed."
According to Iraqi authorities on Tuesday, hundreds of foreign wives and children of suspected Islamic State militants were relocated from a detention center in northern Iraq to Baghdad due to security concerns and the difficulties of keeping them in a remote location. Local officials, security, and aid agency sources claim that over 800 women and children have been moved to a secure detention facility in Baghdad. Mohammed al-Bayadi, the head of Mosul's Provincial Council Security and Defense Committee, said that around 700 more are still being held at the facility in the northern town of Talkif. Most of the women and children have been held in detention since August 30th, when over 1,300 surrendered to Kurdish Peshmerga government forces after the jihadist group had been expelled from Tal Afar, one of its last remaining strongholds in Iraq.
An object from interstellar space has been observed in our solar system. Although the asteroid's travelling at the breakneck speed of 95,000 kilometers per hour, it's believed to have taken millions of years to reach us. It was its trajectory that convinced scientists that the object was a piece of another solar system. Using the European Space Agency's Very Large Telescope in Chile, they scrambled to take measurements before it journeyed back into interstellar space. The 400-metre-long cigar-shaped object's been named Oumuamua, Hawaiian for messenger or scout. It's very dark and red in colour, the hallmark of the organic molecules that are the building blocks for life. Researchers hope improved telescopes will enable them to spot more interstellar visitors passing through in future.
This asteroid is absolutely fascinating, scientists. They've never seen anything that shape, and they have no idea how it could have formed. There are other questions too. Normally asteroids are quite active. Normally you see gases sublimating from the surface. There's nothing going on this asteroid. It's now on a one-way ticket through our solar system, so now's the time to find out more.
Despite having new leadership, Puerto Rico's electric utility may not be able to compensate for missteps following Hurricane Maria that resulted in delayed work, recurrent blackouts, and over $500 million in contracts with untested companies now under federal investigation. 2 months after the hurricane devastated the island, authorities say that power has only been restored to 54% of the island. Ricardo Ramos, PREPA's chief executive, stepped down unexpectedly last week, just days after congressional hearings on the restoration. New interim head, Justo Gonzalez, faces increasing pressure from the U.S. Congress, federal regulators, and the board overseeing Puerto Rico's finances and longtime creditors to whom the territory owes $72 billion in debt.
Bounding up the steps of the presidential residence in Sochi, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has visited Russia to give thanks to the man who saved his regime, President Vladimir Putin. The visit comes as Russia announces it is winding down military operations in Syria. Thanks to the Russian army, Syria has been saved as a country, and a lot has been done to stabilize the situation in Syria. And I hope that in the nearest future we will finish the fight against terrorism in Syria, even though obviously there are more hotbeds of terrorism which will appear in the world, in the Middle East, and in Syria. The two men's talks focused on the political phase of resolving the conflict. But fighting continues on the ground, with airstrikes in the city of Harasta and in Duma supporting ground troops, and in Misraba and Arbin.
E televidente, seguimos na final de Notisia Internacional. Nós estamos aí para corte publicitário, agora nós estamos back e deporte com nosso colega Carl Reuter.